You're watching Act TV. I'm Julianna Forlano. Back on the program now is Chivona Newsome, whose campaign for Congress just came out with a list of comprehensive demands to address structural racism from the police to housing and education. I'll ask her about these demands and how we can join her to make them a reality. Chivona is a Bronx native and the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. Chivona, thanks for coming on the program again.
Hi, thank you for having me. I love being here.
I said right before we started this interview that I saw you on New York One, official news coverage of the Chivona Newsome, movement that is happening.
No, it's a collaborative. That was all Black Lives Matter, my campaign. And also we've opened up a new arm called Black Opportunities. So trust me, there's no I in team. I'm just
no, absolutely not. I was noticing they put you as an activist, like your Chiron was an activist for Black Lives Matter. So I want to underscore that you are running for Congress right now.
Thank you for doing that. I don't want to offend any press people who have me on, but most actually refuse to say it. Like they'll glimpse over the Congress thing, but they love talking about what I co-founded, which I am not upset about. If I can use my voice, which I've lost from screaming all day yesterday, if I could use my voice to amplify the voice of many, then I am living my life's purpose.
Oh, I love you. So we're going to talk briefly about the most urgently needed reforms to address racial inequality. But before that, can you talk about where you were yesterday and what your experience was?
Okay, so I feel like every time I come, I give you like a really good story, right? So we're leaving the Bronx. We have the stage crew. Everyone headed down. Some of our team members already there. And they're like, hey, they closed pedestrian traffic in Times Square. So Mayor de Blasio wanted to send me a big FU, and me and the team, especially because my other co-founder, Hawk Newsome, just got back into town. So I guess they were expecting a turn up and they actually wanted to suppress what we had to say. Yesterday was more than a rally. We unleashed policy, as you earlier mentioned. So we're driving down Times Square. We see barricades from about, where's that, Port Authority, as far as the eye can see. And guess what? We opened up one of them on the corner of 42nd.
Just like,
yes, we pulled the barricades, backed in the stage, the sound, the BLM team, and it went back about 10 blocks. So people came out. Thank you for allowing me on your show. I was running our last clip as promo. It was so much love and unity that I had to remember when it was time for me to speak, why I was there, what was the purpose of me being in there, and tuning into that energy. But most of the pictures from the day, I am smiling from ear to ear. I think I'm still smiling.
Well, New York One was there, and they interviewed you. If you're watching from out of town or out of state or out of the country, New York One is a corporate-owned, quote unquote, local news channel owned by Time Warner. Then they got bought by somebody else, and now there's somebody else, whatever. It's a behemoth place, but they did actually show up. So that's kind of interesting, knowing
that's insane. I think that the press, because there were a lot of rallies happening and a lot of people were marching, excuse me, under the Black Lives Matter umbrella, but we had two smaller rallies, like maybe a couple thousand here and there, since we got back from Minneapolis, but this was like our official unleashed. So there was press from Turkey, there was press from Paris, ABC, NBC, all the ones we know here. They posted me in the Wall Street Journal. Can you believe this? A Bronx girl, the New York Times shadowed me yesterday. Crazy.
Excellent.
Like, what do I do with that? I'm always so humbled, and I can't believe that like people really want to hear the things that I have to say. But it's important that my message gets out, because a lot of people around the world actually. Black Lives Matter Tel Aviv reached out yesterday morning. They had a rally the same day, so it's been pretty awesome.
Well, so can talk about the most urgently needed reforms. You came out with a reform package, the Black Act. Your campaign for Congress just put it out. Can you talk about what are the most urgently needed reforms to address racial inequality, and what is your Black Act calling for?
The Black Act is a living, breathing document that happens with Black Lives Matter Greater New York, some policy people. We actually, Black Lives Matter Greater New York and some of my campaign folks, We locked ourselves in like one of our members like basement kind of thing for
Right?
2 days, and we banked out policy. And then we reached out to people nationally who want to be unnamed, but they've helped.
That basement is going to be on the historic record pretty soon,
It is
right?
going to
Like
be on
that's
historic
what they'll.
record. The first time I was ever on TV when they did my candidacy, I watched it in that basement. I'm probably going to watch election night from there because so many good things come out of there. Thank you, Mario. If you're watching, it's his house. So what we sent it out to people who specialize in policy, and right now it's a living, breathing document. So it will continue to grow. We are finding ways to implement these things, the acts on a federal, state, and local level. And Mayor de Blasio, you know how much I love Mayor de Blasio. I'm being facetious. People don't know I really can't stand him. He folded. So last night when we're all driving home and getting burgers because we're activists, he's defunding the police department. He's pulling some of
I
their
saw that.
budget away. So we had a huge win within about 6 hours of our march. And just to focus on some of the big things, repealing 50A. Governor Cuomo had mentioned that banning
What is 50A for people who aren't aware of what that is?
50A is all the bad things that cops do, how they abuse their power, how they pepper spray people, brutalize people, those kind of injustices against humanity and against the people they're supposed to serve. The NYPD tends to keep it a secret. They're protected by New York State Civil Law Act that they don't have to disclose this information to the public. And so it's kind of like they know what their officers are capable of before something goes viral. They know that by hiding this and keeping it out of the public's eye, that these officers are terrible people before they go on to kill Eric Garner or George Floyd.
Oh, and so if that gets repealed, then their records would be
Completely open to the public.
Places
Yep.
like act.tv could say, hey, this guy you might want to get rid of, and then there could be public pressure for the police to be accountable.
Absolutely. And we know with people like you, how when you use your voice, and we can shame politicians into doing the right things. And so we feel it with people from the community, people who care and people who are on the front lines. But this is a first step in the right direction. Also, the I Can't Breathe Act, I may have discussed it on your show because we announced it when we were heading out to Minneapolis. That says if an officer denies you medical care when you're in their custody, that is a Class A felony. And if you die in custody, that is automatically murder. So we no longer have to wait for these interdepartmental trials. Justice will now be swift. But adding to that justice, we're also calling for a special prosecutor because we see that the Attorney General's office, the DOJ, these people, they are kind of like in cahoots, so to speak, with police departments. They have a very close relationship. So we want a special prosecutor who can come in and be non-biased. And then we also have housing, we have greener jobs in there, we have education, we have reparations for descendants of slaves. So it's a huge document, and I think it attests to what Black Lives Matter in Greater New York actually is. We are more than just police brutality. We're for the full liberation of Black people. And we know that if Black people receive their rights, all marginalized groups do.
This moment has really cracked open an opportunity for these major reforms that wasn't there even a couple of weeks ago. How do you think we should translate our activism to shifting policy toward those changes you suggest in the Black Act?
I think that the people like myself who have been fighting for a very long time, because there's many of us who have been on the front lines when it wasn't viral, when everyone wasn't protesting, I think it's time for us, because we are known organizers, to strategize. It's time for us to go to Congress or go to legislation. But for the general public, please keep going outside. Please keep protesting. Please keep hitting the streets. Do not let it die down. Call your local representatives, call your governor, call your senator, call every single person, because we need to apply pressure from all fronts. So for the general public, keep going to marches. Keep breaking curfew, keep going outside, because it allows people like myself and the teams that I'm on to get legislative change. So the public, I am grateful. I hope there's 19 more protests today, actually.
We're speaking with Chivona Newsome of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. She's a co-founder there. She is also running for Congress. I am visualizing you in Congress for you. You know, when you picture it, then it.
I pictured it. My mom's dreamt about it. Fun fact. So I believe in this thing with butterflies, right? I feel like I'm always sent to.
You need a press secretary once you get up there, okay? I could help.
Hey, I need my allies close, and you have been an ally since day one. So I had this thing. I pray a lot. I'm a devout Christian. For people who check my bio, I always mention Jesus and Christ and all this stuff. And I was praying. I was like, God, send me a sign. Let me see a butterfly, like something random, right? To let me know that I'm gonna win. Yesterday, I ran over to Linda, who you coordinate with all the time. I ran over to Linda. It was this giant yellow butterfly floating yesterday at the march.
That is
So
shocking. First of all, because butterflies are almost extinct now. Because
it was huge. And I'm like a butterfly
wow,
fanatic. It was
wow.
this huge yellow, and it was no way that I could miss it. So people probably thought I was crazy. Like I went from power fisting to following, like looking and searching for a butterfly.
Beautiful.
But we got our sign. And we have the numbers to it. It's some strategy behind running
This
for
is so
Congress.
exciting. I can't wait.
It is.
I hope you still take my calls once you're up there.
Shut up. We were texting the other night. Like we were totally we were texting.
Hey, Chivona, what do you make of the fact that all of a sudden the curfew here in New York was lifted and the police across the country just suddenly stopped brutalizing people? I found that to be a little questionable.
Well,
Uh,
for the ban, I get the curfew ban, right? And some of those people were there yesterday. I have a whole team of lady lawyers. You'll love this. We have some men too who help out, who came out to make sure that I was safe and the protesters were safe. But some of those ladies work for a really great organization called the ACLU and the Legal Aid Society, and they plan to sue de Blasio and sue New York City. And we know what happens when those organizations jump in.
yeah.
So thank you for fighting on the ground and using your law degrees and power for greatness. But he was going to get sued. He didn't do it because of humanity's sake. And
And yet
police
the police
brutality.
still didn't beat everyone. As you know, they didn't, as far as I could
Oh,
tell.
you would have loved this. I really wish you could have came. They wanted to so bad. When they saw us setting up, they had on like regular uniforms. Then they went and put on their riot patrol gear, and that's also a part of the bill, defunding, demilitarizing the police. Because I don't think that regular police officers should have tanks and should have riot gear and all these kind of operational outfits where they're attacking American citizens. So they went from being plainly dressed to riot gear yesterday with the zip ties they used to arrest protesters. And then they were like falling asleep. But I don't know who called in the order, but they weren't
They're
even in our space.
tired.
They were all lined up across the street. Everyone who came out in solidarity yesterday, we were not bothered. We were not shoved around. Uh, yeah.
Well, they needed to
So,
protect that Disney store. There could have been looting of the Mickey Mouse ears up there.
yeah,
We
my team's
focus on
gonna
what's
lose.
important.
It was literally me, Nick Cannon, lawyers, PhDs. It was like the
Yeah.
makeup of our collective. We're not really the looting kind. I understand the methods of looting, and I can't say off the record if I'm on live TV, but keep applying pressure because you are a driving force in why we're getting laws changed. These protests have cost the United States roughly $70 million. And America cares about money. It's a capitalist society. So if these things were not going on, we would not be getting these swift policy changes.
Chivona, how can people support your campaign?
Chivona Newsome for
Oh,
Congress. You can donate. You can volunteer. I am on all forms of social media. New York, the full word, Bonnie, Vonni. That's my family's nickname for me. So reach out, support, share a story, get involved, come put up posters and flyers, give us some money to buy some more flyers, anything that you could do, or even if you're sending me a kind word of encouragement, I do repost all the things that people send on IG, and the messages make me like emotional inside, the support I'm getting. Today I was flooded. Will Smith used my face in a video today, a Bronx girl. Yeah, crazy.
awesome.
um,
Awesome.
so I'm just overjoyed, and I'm still using the same energy to channel it towards real change. We need policy change. We need legislation, and that's what helps people in America. Nothing will come unless we have something concrete and written down. So I'm just here fighting a good fight.
Chivona, what do you make of the fact that the Minneapolis City Council has decided that they're going to, disband their police department and come up with a new plan?
I think that that's the goal, because when you have to think about the history of policing, policing started as from the Fugitive Slave Act, and it was used to capture slaves who were then considered property, back to their slave owner. And what we unveiled as a collective, and Hawk Newsome and Nick Cannon actually founded this. They were part of a think tank happening in LA, in between Minneapolis and New York yesterday, is Black Ops, where not only will we be feeding people like we've done with the People's Food Program, but we'll also be teaching people how to police their own communities and how to cop watch until we get to the point where we are like Minneapolis, because there are a lot of communities that police themselves. And I hope that as a country we can get there and not have, that's also in the bill. We're calling for guns not to be weaponed officers, not to be in schools, not to be in hospitals, and hopefully no longer in our community.
This is very exciting. I found it very exciting when that was announced, because it's something that is really outside of even the thinking process of people who aren't in the movement, who aren't aware of what's being called for, these other
Yeah.
folks, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fear mongering. What if someone tries to rape your grandmother and there's no
Of
cop,
course, of course.
but
Of course. And that's why we are getting to the point of that. And defunding the police is not going to be a public safety issue. New York City has maybe 20 to 30,000 police officers, but training the community how to police themselves, how to feed themselves, how to fend for themselves will ultimately make us a better country.
Chivona Newsome, thank you so much for joining us on the program and all the support we can hand your way. I'm sorry we couldn't get a team out there to live stream you on Sunday morning. Sunday it was
I literally text you at like midnight. Maybe if I would have gave you a few days notice, you could have made it happen. It's okay. I know you would have if you could.
Please do, because we're happy to do that, and we look forward to doing that. Our team has been slightly jostled around by the things that are happening, because there's so much going on in the different
Haven't
cities.
we all? I completely understand.
Whatnot, but we will give you and the movement as much support as we can from ACT.tv. Thank you so much for joining us. Find Chivona's, you can follow Chivona on Twitter, I guess.
Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, they're all the same. New York Vonnie, New York, the full words, VONNI. They're all the same on all social media platforms.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for joining us. If you're watching us on Facebook, please share this video and subscribe. We bring you, all the progressive talk that you might be interested in every day of the week. So thank you very much. Thanks, Chivona. I will sign off. I'm going to let you hang up, because if I hang up, you can never come back for some reason.
Oh no. Bye.
All right. Stay in touch.